I'll never forget that spring evening, the one that split my life into a before and after. The wrench slipped from my hand, hitting the garage floor with a hollow clang. I was under the old Ford, thinking about what I'd cook for dinner, when I heard tires crunching along the gravel drive, a sound I hadn't heard in months. I checked my watch, 6:30. The twins wouldn't be home from football practice for another hour, and I wasn't expecting anyone. So when a black Honda appeared, dust swirling around it in the Indiana dusk, I wiped my hands and went out, squinting against the setting sun. The woman who stepped out was almost a stranger, though I'd once known her better than my own shadow. Ashley Bennett, or Ashley Morgan now, her maiden name reclaimed after my son was gone. She'd cut her hair short and sharp, dyed it a colder shade of brown. Her suit looked like it belonged on a city lawyer, not in a small Midwest town. But it was her face, drawn, tense, far older than 38, that really gave her away. I stood between her and the porch, like I had so many times before. She paused at the edge of the yard, keys jangling in her fist. "Hello, Frank," she called, managing a brittle smile. "Ashley," I replied, keeping my voice even. "What brings you all the way out here?" She looked past me toward the house, eyes flickering over the window where the boys' trophies glinted on the sill. "I'm here for Noah and Lucas. I want to see my sons." The words stung, sharp as a slap. For 8 years those boys, my grandsons, had been my world. I'd taught them how to fish, how to throw a perfect spiral, how to patch a tire and say thank you. I'd sat up with them through storms and sickness, and the 1,000 heartbreaks of growing up without parents. Their mother had disappeared into the city, chasing something I couldn't name. "Your sons?" I asked, my knuckles whitening on the wrench. "Ashley, you left them with me 8 years ago. You promised you'd come back in 4 hours. You never did." She winced but didn't back down. "I was sick, Frank. I needed time to get myself together." 8 years is a long recovery," I said, my voice thick. "You could have called. You could have written. You missed their birthdays, school plays, Christmas mornings." She crossed her arms, eyes glinting. "Things are different now. I have a good job, a stable home. I want them back." My heart hammered. I'd always known this day could come, but I wasn't ready. "The boys are happy here. They've got a home, friends, stability. I won't let you tear that apart because you suddenly feel like playing family." Her smile turned icy. "You don't get to decide that. I'm their mother." I shook my head. "Not when you walked away." Without another word, she turned on her heel and stalked back to her car. "This isn't over," she tossed over her shoulder. "Not by a long shot." The car roared off down the lane, leaving me alone in the growing twilight. I stood for a long time, the wrench heavy in my hand, watching the taillights vanish behind the row of maples we'd planted when my son, David, was still alive. The air was full of spring peepers and the distant thud of a basketball on the neighbor's driveway, but for me, the world had gone silent. Inside, I filled the coffee pot, hands shaking. On the fridge, David's old army photo watched over me, just as he always had. He'd been gone nearly a decade, cancer. Ashley lost herself after he died. She drifted for months, then years, until finally, one rainy Tuesday, she dropped the boys off and never looked back. I'd kept my promise to my son. "Take care of them, Dad," he'd whispered, eyes glassy from the painkillers. "All of them. Even Ashley if you can." But some people don't want to be saved. Ashley had left a note on the kitchen counter that night. "I can't do this. Please, just love them the way I can't. Ashley." And so I did. 8 years passed. Noah and Lucas thrived, grew tall, strong, with their father's quick smile and stubborn streak. We built a life, not flashy, but solid as the oaks outside. I never let myself think about Ashley, except late at night, when the house was quiet. But her visit shattered our peace. That night, after the boys came home, muddy, hungry, laughing about practice. I watched them eat and wondered if they had any idea how close they were to losing everything. I knew Ashley wasn't done. And for the first time in years, I felt real fear. Not for myself, but for the family I'd pieced together from heartbreak and hope. That first night after Ashley's return, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, memories crashed in. David's last days in the hospital, the cold drizzle outside the window, the desperate way Ashley clung to my arm after the funeral before she faded away into something like a ghost. I sat up late at the kitchen table, sorting through old mail, bills, and a pile of drawings the boys had made when they were small. Their crayon versions of our house, the old red barn, a stick figure me grinning behind a tractor. I kept all of it. It was proof, in a way, that this place, this life, was theirs. Proof that I hadn't just stepped in as a placeholder, but had truly become their anchor. The next morning, I was halfway through frying bacon when Lucas stumbled down the stairs, hair wild, voice still sleepy. "Grandpa Frank, did you fix my bike chain yet?" he asked, just as he did every Saturday. I managed a smile. "We'll get it done before lunch, buddy." "Where's your brother?" "Upstairs, probably texting Maddie," he snickered, rolling his eyes in that way only a 13-year-old can. "She's obsessed with his hair." That normal banter almost made me forget the storm gathering outside our little world. But after breakfast, as Noah and Lucas headed out to shoot hoops, I called Noah back. He paused in the hallway, hands shoved in his hoodie pockets. "What's up, Grandpa?" I hesitated. How do you tell a kid that the mother who abandoned him wants back in? "Noah, do you remember your mom much?" I asked gently. He studied the floor, then shrugged. "Sometimes. She used to sing when she made spaghetti. She was sad after Dad, you know. I don't think about her much." "Why?" I swallowed. "She came by yesterday. Says she wants to see you and Lucas. Maybe more than that." His face twisted, half anger, half confusion. "She left, Grandpa? She doesn't just get to waltz back and pretend we're her kids now." I ruffled his hair. "You're right. I promised your dad I'd protect you, and I intend to keep that promise. But I want you and Lucas to know the truth. No secrets." Noah gave me a long, searching look, the kind that makes you realize how fast kids grow up when life is hard. "We're not leaving, Grandpa. This is our home." His words were a relief and a heartache all at once. That day passed in a blur of chores. I mended the chicken wire, changed the oil in the tractor, fixed Lucas's bike like I said I would. Every now and then, I'd spot the boys chasing each other through the yard, their laughter echoing off the big maple trees. I caught myself watching them, wondering how long this peace would last. Around noon, my neighbor, Mrs. Daly, stopped by with a plate of oatmeal cookies. She was the kind of woman who knew everything about everyone, but never judged. "Heard Ashley was in town," she said softly, eyes kind. I nodded. "She says she wants the boys." Mrs. Daly pursed her lips. "You've raised those kids like your own, Frank. Everyone knows it. She can't just blow back in and sweep them away." I sighed. "The law doesn't always see it that way." She patted my shoulder. "If you need character witnesses, you just say the word." By late afternoon, the anxiety returned. I checked the mailbox 3 times, half expecting a letter from a lawyer or the county courthouse. Instead, all I found was a flyer for a local yard sale and a note from the high school about parent-teacher conferences. After dinner, as the boys settled into their usual bickering about who got to pick the movie, the phone rang. I almost didn't answer, but something told me it was important. Ashley's voice was cool and practiced. "Frank, I spoke with an attorney. You'll be hearing from us soon. I want to do this the right way, but if you force me, well, then I'll let the courts decide." I felt a cold fury rise in my chest. "Ashley, you left a note. You said you couldn't be there, Mother. You never called." Not once in 8 years. I'm not going to let you hurt them again. She didn't respond to that. Instead, she simply said, "You'll see me in court, Frank," and hung up. The next morning, an official-looking envelope arrived, delivered by the town's postman, Pete, a friend who'd known my family since before I was born. He handed it to me without a word, sympathy all over his face. Inside was exactly what I'd feared: legal documents, filed with the county in Bloomington, Indiana. Ashley Morgan versus Frank Taylor. Unlawful detention of minors, Noah Taylor and Lucas Taylor. It felt like a punch to the gut. Like raising my grandsons, giving up my own plans, pouring my whole heart into them, had become a crime. I set the envelope on the table and stared at it for a long time, the sound of the boys' laughter drifting down the hallway. I knew then this wasn't just about family. It was about survival. And I wasn't going to let Ashley, or any judge, take away the only real family those boys had left. The days after that letter felt like waiting for a storm you know is coming but can't prepare for. Every knock at the door made my heart race. The twins noticed I was on edge, but I tried my best to hide it, keeping their routine steady: breakfast together, chores, school, basketball practice in the evenings. I didn't want them worrying about things kids should never have to. Still, the cracks were showing. That Friday at dinner, Lucas pushed his mashed potatoes around his plate, staring off into space. "Grandpa Frank, are we in trouble?" he asked quietly. My fork stopped in midair. "What makes you say that?" He shrugged. "You're different. Like when you found out your taxes were wrong. You keep looking at us like you're scared." I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "I am scared, Lucas. But not of you. Not of anything you did. Some grown-up stuff is happening. Your mom wants to come back into your lives, and it's complicated." Noah glanced up, jaw clenched. "We heard you on the phone. You said court?" I sighed, setting my napkin down. "You boys deserve to know what's going on. Your mom's hired a lawyer. She wants custody. That means there's going to be a court case to decide where you live." Lucas blinked, tears gathering in his eyes. "Are they going to make us leave?" I shook my head. "No one can make you do anything without hearing what you want first. The judge will ask, and you'll get to tell your side. I'll fight for you with everything I have, boys. I promise you that." They both nodded, but I could see the worry settling in their shoulders. That night, after they went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table and reread Ashley's old note for the 1000th time. The paper was soft from years of folding, her handwriting shaky. "I can't do this. Please just love them the way I can't. Ashley." I tucked the note into my wallet, right behind David's photo, and decided it was time to get serious. I needed help. The next morning, I called Linda Sanders, a family attorney in Bloomington whose daughter had played softball with Noah years ago. She answered on the third ring, her voice brisk and no nonsense. "Frank, I heard about what's going on. Why don't you come in on Monday? Bring everything: old letters, the note, school records, anything that shows you've been caring for the boys." When I showed up at her office, a little brick building across from the county library, she ushered me in with a strong handshake. "Start at the beginning," she said, pulling out a legal pad. So I did. I told her about David, his cancer diagnosis, the endless hospital nights, his dying wish that I take care of his sons. About Ashley's spiral, her disappearances, the day she left the boys with me. I explained the years since, the school conferences, the baseball injuries, the parent-teacher nights, the holidays spent filling in the gaps left by their mother. Linda listened closely, scribbling notes. "You've got a solid case, Frank. But the law always tries to prioritize the mother, unless you can show she abandoned them or is unfit. Do you have proof?" I handed her the note. She read it twice, her eyebrows rising. "This is good. Very good. And the boys are old enough that their preferences matter, especially if they're articulate about it. We'll need witnesses, neighbors, teachers, your doctor, anyone who can speak to your character and the boy's well-being." That gave me some hope. I spent the next days calling everyone I could think of: Mrs. Daly from next door, Mr. Brooks, the boy's math teacher, Pastor Henderson from church, even Dr. Patel from the clinic who'd seen the boys through the flu and scrapes. Each one agreed, without hesitation, to testify. Meanwhile, the house was tense but still a home. Noah took refuge in his music, strumming the old guitar in the garage, while Lucas buried himself in sketchbooks and model airplanes. I tried to act normal: pancakes for breakfast, cheering at games, fixing whatever broke. But inside, I was counting the days. Finally, the court date arrived, a raw, rainy morning that made the town look gray and uncertain. Linda met us on the courthouse steps, umbrella in hand, dressed in a navy suit that meant business. "Stay close to me, boys," I said as we entered. "Just tell the truth, no matter what." The waiting room outside the family court was packed. Ashley sat on the far bench, flanked by her lawyer, a sharp-looking man with slicked-back hair, and two strangers I didn't recognize. She looked up as we walked in, her eyes meeting mine with a cold determination. I squeezed the boy's shoulders. "No matter what happens, I'm proud of you," I whispered. When our case was called, we filed into the courtroom. The judge, a tall woman with kind eyes but a stern expression, presided over a room heavy with tension. Ashley's lawyer spoke first. "Your Honor, my client regrets the years she lost, but she's rehabilitated and wishes to reunite her family. The boys need their mother." Linda stood up next, clear and steady. "We don't deny Ms. Morgan's pain. But Mr. Taylor has raised these boys alone for 8 years. They are thriving. We have proof of voluntary abandonment and community testimony supporting Mr. Taylor's guardianship." And so, the battle began. The courtroom felt colder than I'd imagined. The walls were lined with dark wood, the windows streaked from the morning rain. I sat at the defendant's table beside Linda, my hands folded tight enough to turn my knuckles white. Across the aisle, Ashley looked every bit the picture of a remorseful mother, hair neat, suit pressed, hands clasped in her lap. But I could see the flicker of nerves in her jaw. The judge, Honorable Meredith Graham, peered over her glasses at the paperwork, then at us. "This is a matter of custody concerning minors Noah and Lucas Taylor. Ms. Morgan, you may begin." Ashley's lawyer, Mr. Brentley, rose with a stack of documents. "Your Honor, my client suffered from severe depression and grief after her husband's passing. She left her sons in the temporary care of their grandfather, Frank Taylor, with every intention to return once she regained stability. She is now fully employed, in therapy, and ready to resume her role as a mother." I felt Linda bristle beside me. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of rain against the window. Then it was our turn. Linda stood up, her voice unwavering. "Your Honor, we have documentation that Ms. Morgan was not in contact for 8 years. Mr. Taylor has raised the children as his own since they were abandoned, excelling in school, in sports, in community activities. We have testimony and written evidence of voluntary relinquishment of parental duties." The judge nodded, then turned to Ashley. "Ms. Morgan, please take the stand." Ashley walked to the witness box and sat, her eyes shining as if on cue. "Your Honor, I can only say I'm sorry. I was lost after David died. I miss birthdays, I miss Christmases, but I was not capable of being the mother my boys needed then. I am now." Her lawyer handed her a tissue. "Why didn't you call? Why no letters?" the judge asked. Ashley lowered her gaze. "Shame, mostly. Every day, I thought about coming back. But time just kept passing. Then it was my turn." Linda guided me to the stand. My voice shook at first, but steadied as I remembered all those years. Scraped knees, late-night talks, school projects spread across the kitchen table. "I never wanted to take their mother's place," I said. But I did what I promised my son I'd do. I raised his boys with all the love and steadiness I had. The judge studied me. Did you ever prevent Ms. Morgan from contacting the children? No, ma'am. The door was always open. The boys waited. Eventually, they stopped asking. Linda submitted Ashley's handwritten note into evidence. This is from the night she left, Linda said. She wrote in her own hand, I can't do this. Please just love them the way I can't. That note has been kept for 8 years. The judge read it carefully. Ashley stared at the floor. Witnesses were called one by one. Mrs. Daly told the court about birthdays and holidays, how I coached Little League and kept the boys on track. Mr. Brooks, their teacher, shared how Noah and Lucas had thrived, even excelled, under my care. Pastor Henderson spoke about church Sundays, bake sales, and how Frank was always there, never missed a moment. Linda even brought up Dr. Patel, who confirmed, both boys are healthy, physically and emotionally. Mr. Taylor's provided consistent care. He's as much a parent as any I've seen in my practice. Ashley's side called 2 friends from Indianapolis, who said she had always talked about her boys, and a therapist who'd seen her 3 times in the last 6 months. But even their testimony seemed thin compared to years of community support for our family. When it was time for the boys to speak, the judge invited them in, giving them each a seat beside her bench, away from the formality of the stand. Noah went first. He stood tall for 15, voice clear. This is our home. Grandpa's always been there for us. He's never lied, never let us down. I respect my mom for trying to come back, but this is where we belong. Lucas, a bit more nervous, clutched the sleeve of his hoodie. I love my mom. I'd like to see her, maybe. But I want to live with Grandpa. He's family. Their words hit me like a wave, grief, relief, and pride all tangled together. For 8 years, I'd worried that one day they'd long for something I couldn't give. Now I realized they'd already made their choice. After a long day, the judge recessed for deliberation. We filed out into the hallway, our footsteps echoing. Ashley sat on a bench, dabbing her eyes. I wanted to be angry, but all I felt was a heavy, weary sadness. Linda squeezed my shoulder. You did well, Frank. Whatever happens, you fought for them. They know it. We drove home in silence, the boys tired, each lost in their thoughts. As we passed the old cornfields, Lucas whispered, It'll be okay, Grandpa. We believe in you. I nodded, not trusting my voice. In that moment I knew, no matter what a court decided, these boys were my family. And some battles were worth fighting to the end. That night, the farmhouse felt heavier than ever. Even though we were home, the walls seemed to listen for footsteps, for news, for any sign of what would happen next. I made spaghetti, Noah's favorite, and tried to act normal, but we all ate in silence, forks scraping the plates, the TV muttering quietly in the background. After dinner, I sat on the porch, mug of coffee warming my hands. The boys shot hoops in the driveway, pretending nothing had changed, but their laughter was thin, brittle around the edges. The court case hung over us like a storm that just wouldn't break. Mrs. Daly came by with an apple pie, her way of showing support. Frank, I just want you to know, whatever happens, this community is behind you. Folks know what kind of man you are. Her eyes glistened in the porch light. You're family to us, too. I thanked her, but my mind kept circling back to court. I replayed everything, Noah's steady words, Lucas's trembling voice, Ashley's sad eyes. What would the judge decide? Would the note be enough? Had I missed something, some detail that might tip the scales? I couldn't sleep. I wandered the dark house, checking on the boys twice. They were sprawled on their beds, snoring softly, faces finally peaceful. In the kitchen, I pulled open the desk drawer and ran my fingers over David's picture and Ashley's old note. The words fading but the meaning sharp as ever. By morning, nerves had settled in like unwelcome guests. I busied myself with chores, feeding the chickens, patching the fence, even sweeping the porch twice. Noah tried to help, but I could see his mind was elsewhere. "Do you think she'll win, Grandpa?" he finally asked, voice raw. I looked him straight in the eye. "I don't know, son. But no matter what, you and your brother are my family. No judge can change what's in our hearts." We didn't have to wait long. By noon, Linda called, voice urgent. "The judge has reached a decision. We need to be at the courthouse by 2. The drive back into town was silent, tension thick in the cab of the old pickup. The courthouse loomed against the gray sky, and we found Ashley already there, flanked by her lawyer. She looked older than she had just days before, her shoulders slumped, hands twisting in her lap. Inside, the judge entered, robes swirling, expression unreadable. We stood as she took her seat. "I have considered all testimony, evidence, and the children's wishes," Judge Graham began. Her voice was firm but not unkind. "This case is not simple. Ms. Morgan, you have made progress, and your desire to be a mother again is commendable. However, 8 years is a very long absence. The note you wrote, your lack of contact, and the boy's clear wishes all point to one conclusion." She turned to me. "Mr. Taylor, you have provided stability, love, and guidance. The community's support, the boys' health, and their school records speak volumes." My hands shook on the table. I felt Lucas's small hand grip mine under the desk. Judge Graham continued. "Therefore, I am awarding full custody of Noah and Lucas Taylor to their grandfather, Frank Taylor. Ms. Morgan, you may petition for supervised visitation after 6 months, pending further review." Ashley's face crumpled, not with anger, but something deeper, almost relief and heartbreak mixed. Her lawyer put an arm around her shoulders. Noah squeezed my hand so hard I thought my knuckles would crack. Tears filled my eyes as I realized the fight was over. I hugged the boys close, all 3 of us trembling, relief and disbelief mingling in the air. Linda smiled for the first time in weeks. "You did it, Frank. You kept your promise." We stepped outside into the sunlight, blinking as if we'd been underground for years. Friends waited at the courthouse steps, Mrs. Daly, Mr. Brooks, Pastor Henderson, even Pete the postman. Each offered a handshake or a hug, words of congratulations, tears of joy. Ashley approached quietly. "Frank, I'm sorry. For everything. I held up a hand. "I know, Ashley. I really do. You're still their mother. If you want to try, I won't stand in your way. But it's got to be real. No more disappearing." She nodded, wiping her cheeks. "I want to try for their sake." We drove home as a family, windows down, the fields blazing with wildflowers. That evening, after supper, I finally let myself breathe easy. The boys chased each other through the yard, their laughter strong and true again. I stood on the porch, watching the sun slip behind the barn, feeling the peace I hadn't felt in years. The fight for my family was over. But our story, our life together, was only just beginning. In the days that followed the judge's ruling, our home felt lighter but not unchanged. The tension that had wound itself around our lives slowly started to loosen, like a knot coming undone. For the first time in months, I woke up without dread squeezing my chest. I made pancakes on Saturday morning, and the boys ate 3 stacks each, syrup running down their chins as they traded jokes about school and football tryouts. But Ashley didn't disappear, not this time. She called me the next afternoon, her voice quiet, almost hesitant. "Frank, I know you don't owe me anything, but could I see the boys this weekend? Just for a couple of hours. Supervised if you want." I thought of the court order, and more than that, I thought of the boys, how Noah had stared out his window after the trial, how Lucas doodled her name in the margins of his notebook. "You can come by Saturday at noon," I told her. "We'll all be here." She arrived on time, dressed in jeans and a soft sweater instead of business clothes, hair pulled back like I remembered from years ago. She carried a brown paper bag filled with cupcakes she'd baked herself, an olive branch, maybe, or just a small attempt at normalcy. Noah and Lucas were stiff at first. They sat across the living room from her, hands folded, eyes down. Ashley fidgeted, unsure how to start. Finally, Lucas blurted, "Why did you leave, Mom?" "Really?" The question hung in the air, raw and real. I almost stepped in, but Ashley spoke first, her voice shaking. "I was hurting. After your dad died, I just broke inside. I thought leaving would hurt less for all of us. I was wrong, and I'm sorry." Noah looked up, searching her face for something true. "You could have called." "I know. I wish I had. I can't fix the past, but I want to try for the future," she said, her eyes shining with tears she didn't bother to hide. Lucas shrugged, but I could tell her words landed somewhere deep. "You can come for my baseball game next week," he said, voice barely above a whisper. Noah nodded. "And maybe help with my science project. Grandpa's good at building stuff, but you're better at coloring." Ashley managed a teary smile. "I'd like that if it's okay with you, Frank." I nodded, throat tight. "It's more than okay." After she left, I found the boys in the kitchen, quietly dividing the cupcakes she'd brought. They didn't say much, but when Lucas offered me the last one, his eyes soft, I knew forgiveness wasn't out of reach. The next week, life pressed forward. School, chores, and football practice. Ashley showed up at the baseball game, standing behind the fence, cheering awkwardly but sincerely when Lucas got a hit. Afterward, we went for ice cream. The four of us, in a battered booth at Murphy's Dairy Bar, eating sundaes like nothing strange had ever happened. It wasn't perfect. Some nights, I heard the boys arguing quietly in their room, the way siblings do when the world feels uncertain. Sometimes, Lucas still asked if Ashley would leave again, and I didn't lie. "I don't know, but I think she's really trying this time." One afternoon, I sat down with Noah on the porch, watching the clouds drift across the Indiana sky. "How are you holding up, kiddo?" He shrugged. "I'm glad you're still here, Grandpa. I love Mom, but this is home." I put an arm around his shoulder, feeling the weight of all the years that had led us here. Family doesn't have to be simple. It just has to be real. We watched the sunset, the fields stretching gold and green to the horizon, and I thought about all the battles we'd fought, not just in court, but in our hearts. I knew the scars would always be there, but maybe, just maybe, new things could grow in the space where old wounds finally healed. The days turned to weeks, and I saw Ashley try, over and over. She showed up, listened, learned how to be part of the boys' world again. She brought over board games on rainy afternoons, sat in the stands for football, and even cooked dinner with us once, filling the kitchen with laughter for the first time in years. At night, as the house quieted, I sometimes worried the peace might break again. But every time I looked at Noah and Lucas, at the way they smiled more easily, argued less, and dreamed bigger, I knew we were building something stronger than fear. We were building hope. Autumn came early that year, the air brisk and the maple leaves turning gold and fire red all around the farmhouse. The boys settled back into school, and life, at last, began to feel like something solid again. I started looking forward to the small things. Lucas's shouts from the backyard, Noah's music drifting through open windows, the scent of cinnamon bread rising from the oven on Sunday afternoons. Ashley's visits became a part of our new rhythm. Sometimes she just stayed for dinner, sometimes she took the boys out for a movie, always with honesty about when she'd be back. There were awkward moments, of course, a forgotten birthday card here, a too long silence there, but with each passing week, I watched a kind of trust rebuild between her and her sons. Like a bridge growing stone by stone. I thought a lot about forgiveness that fall. The past can't be rewritten, not really, no matter how many times you wish for it. But the future? That's just a field waiting for you to plant something better. David's words haunted me less as the leaves fell. I'd kept my promise to him, and to myself. I'd given the boys a home, and now, maybe, I'd helped their mother find her way back too. One evening, after dinner, we sat around the kitchen table playing dominoes. Lucas was winning, cackling at his own luck, while Noah pretended not to care and Ashley just smiled quietly, her eyes bright. "Grandpa, remember when you tried to teach us to fish and Lucas fell in the pond?" Noah teased, grinning. Ashley laughed, a sound I hadn't heard in years. "That was the day he caught more mud than fish." I looked at my family, their faces glowing in the lamplight, the old kitchen filled with stories and second chances. "That was a good day," I said softly. "Most of them are, if you look hard enough." After the boys went to bed, Ashley lingered in the doorway. "Thank you, Frank, for not giving up on them, or on me." I shrugged, embarrassed by the gratitude. "That's what family does. We keep trying, even when it hurts." She nodded, wiping at her eyes. "I know I can't ever make up for those lost years. But I want them to know I'm not running anymore." "I think they do," I said gently. "Kids are smarter than we think. They see who shows up." That winter, the house filled with new laughter, board games by the fire, snowball fights in the yard, quiet evenings with books and hot chocolate. Noah got a part-time job at the hardware store, Lucas made the basketball team, and Ashley came to every game, clapping so loud the boys blushed. People in town noticed. Mrs. Daly would wink when she saw us at the grocery store. Pastor Henderson stopped me after church and said, "You've done right by those boys, Frank. And you gave their mother away back home, too." Sometimes, late at night, I'd walk the quiet halls, listening to the peaceful breathing of my grandsons, the creak of the old farmhouse settling into the cold. I'd pause by the photos on the mantel, David's broad smile, the boys' baby pictures, Ashley holding them close before the world changed. I realized then that love isn't about erasing the pain. It's about building something better with the pieces you're given. On a bright morning in early spring, I watched as Ashley picked the boys up for a weekend trip, just the three of them. As they pulled out of the driveway, Lucas rolled down his window and shouted, "Love you, Grandpa! Don't eat all the cookies before we get back." I laughed, waving until they were gone. The house felt quiet, but not lonely. For the first time in a long while, I let myself imagine a future where we all kept moving forward, not perfect, but together. I sat on the porch with a mug of coffee, the sun just starting to warm the fields. The world had changed, and so had we. Some wounds leave scars, but they can also teach you how to heal, how to hope, and how to hold on to what matters most. If I've learned anything, it's this: family isn't about blood. It's about showing up, again and again, no matter how hard it gets. It's about second chances, forgiveness, and the quiet courage of keeping a promise. And as long as I'm here, this will be home. For Noah, for Lucas, for Ashley, and for the memory of my son. Because that's what a grandpa does. He keeps the light on, the door open, and the love strong enough to carry everyone through.